Hopefully I don't run out. Let's see.
Take 2. Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to a very special review, where today, me and good old Shawnee Boy...
Hello there.
We'll be discussing one of our favorite films of all time, both Universal-wise, horror, monster, remake, but just in general, favorite movies of all time, with Stephen Sommers' 1999 masterpiece, The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser, Arnold Vozlu, and Rachel Weisz.
And Kevin J. O'Connor and Odette Fair. And John Hannah, I believe, is the actor's name for Jonathan.
So what?
Props too.
Pray tell, what might be your history with this movie, Shawnee Boy?
Okay, so the first time, I didn't even know this movie existed when it first came out. I knew about this movie, first of all, when I went to stay the night at my cousin's. And then he pulled out a VHS of The Mummy. Now, at this point, I was, this movie I was like 5, maybe 6 years old. I don't know if this was 99 or 2000. Because I remember when Mummy Returns was coming out. Because I was very excited to see that movie. I didn't get to see it till DVD because I never really got to go to the movie theater. But anyways, with The Mummy 99, it's either 1999 or 2000. I went to stay there at my cousin's, and he pulled out a VHS of The Mummy. Now, at this point, I had been really familiar with the MCA Universal Monsters Classic Collection, so the black and white movies. I had a lot of those on VHS. You're familiar with that, right? The Universal Monsters VHS
Universal's Monsters Collection.
Classic Collection. These are the titles monster fans have been waiting to sink their teeth into. Now at the spectacular price of $14.98 each, suggested retailer. I remember I went to my local retailer and asked for the Universal Studios Monsters Classic Collection. They just looked at me clueless. I'm like, well, this sucks. But anyway, so I went to my cousin's and they showed me this movie. I'd never heard of this thing. So he's like, oh, let's put it on. I watched the movie and like my jaw hit the floor. I thought it was the coolest fucking thing I had ever seen. I'm like, I thought Rick was like the most badass character, like the Mummy, the fucking Scarabs. Really just everything about the movie just wowed me. Like it stuck with me for years. Like I watched this movie so many times. I've watched this movie, God, it's got to be close to 100 times in my lifetime. So, think about it, like as a kid, you watch movies a lot, and then, you watch it a few times a year maybe, and that's over the course of, like, God, this movie's, 22 years old now? Shit, I mean, I've seen this movie a lot of times, at least over 50. I love the 1999 film. I watched it. I always wanted to be like Rick O'Connell with the dual pistols, or Ardeth Bay and his cool, really kind of like, there's something about Ardeth Bay had this cool on-screen presence, and he just kind of joins up with them. And you kind of feel this sense of camaraderie amongst everyone. Imhotep was this really memorable, unstoppable villain that just kind of has this great on-screen presence to him, is extremely memorable. Benny was absolutely hilarious, and it got to the point where I love Benny so much, but you almost kind of feel bad to watch him die because he is so pathetic. But he kind of deserves what's coming to him because he screws over so many people and cons so many people. But he's so pathetic that you almost kind of feel bad for him. But like I said, I just watched this movie on that VHS that first time, and I fell in love with this movie. And then I just got really excited for Mummy Returns, and I remember that thing coming out, all the hype surrounded that thing, and I got the DVD for that, and I watched that one quite a bit. To the Dragon Emperor, I got pretty excited when I saw the trailer for that one because it was just kind of rekindling that need for another mummy after not seeing anything for years. And then, obviously that Scorpion King in between that. And then after that, obviously there was nothing because we won't acknowledge the Scorpion King sequels or the disappointing Tom Cruise 2017 film. But yeah, so I love Mummy 99. It just kind of has everything going for it as a movie. So yeah, you go give your history and let's get straight into this thing.
Man, so me and this movie go way the fuck back in my life. I think I stated this in my Terminator 2 review, but there's a small number of movies that I would rewatch a lot when I was very, very young. I don't quite remember the first time I watched this movie. I believe I was about 4 or 5 years old. But that, for real quick, that small collection was Terminator 2, the first the original Star Wars trilogy, as well as Phantom Menace. True Lies, The Mask,
Great movie.
And the first two Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. This one more
movies.
so in particular. I do remember the first time I watched this movie, though, because this movie actually scared the crap out of me. For about 10 seconds. This movie scared me only once. But I remember when Imhotep first showed up, resurrected after tearing out the dude's eyes and tongue, hiding behind my mom's couch. But I was still intrigued. And then when I got a little older, I sat down and actually rewatched the movie from beginning to end in my first time by memory. And my eyes were glued to the screen. My jaw was agape. I did not move, barely blinked, barely breathed, barely made a sound. I was just like, that was my first true cinematic experience watching this movie.
Oh, it's so great.
I absolutely love this movie. This, like I said, is one of my favorite movies of all time. Endlessly entertaining, endlessly rewatchable. And as the years go by, I just think it gets better and better and better and better. And especially as I grew up and became more of a classic Universal fan, this movie just always remained the ultimate shining gem. There's really good other Universal horror movies out there, like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, the original Wolfman. Let's see. The Mummy's Hand, the original Mummy. But this movie is truly where it's at. And this kind of spoils my ranking of all Universal movies. I do think this is the greatest Universal monster movie ever made.
Yeah, it's pretty much my favorite one too. I mean, there's a lot of them that I really, really do like, but this one, like, I just love this one the most. Like, it just speaks to me. Like, it's got all the right elements to it. Like, there's nothing in this movie that truly is bad by any means. Like, it's just a great time. Like, it's the perfect summer entertainment movie.
They don't make movies like this anymore, unfortunately.
They really don't. It kind of combines so many genres so seamlessly. You got some horror elements to it. You got action elements to it. You got a great romantic element in there too. You got some fantastic comedy in this movie. Like, this is a really funny movie. There's great actors involved in this thing. It's self-aware, but it doesn't and it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it doesn't go to the line of parody to where it becomes a complete joke altogether. Like, it knows when to play things seriously. Like, it plays Imhotep as a serious threat, but they still have like a sense of humor about a lot of the situations with it. Like, it's sprinkled throughout every scene. It's not like overly quippy. There's a lot of great visual gags. It just, action-wise, it's amazing. Like, the sandstorm sequence still really impresses me. And just the things that they did with the Mummy, it's beautifully shot. Like, my God, this is such a phenomenal movie. It just, every time I watch it, I just like want to watch it immediately again. Like, I just rewatched the trilogy yesterday before we're recording this thing, and now that we're just talking about it, like, it just, like, I just think of like key moments in the movie, and I just want to kind of go back and watch it again. Like, I think of that moment when Rick comes in kind of at the end with the sword and he like frees Evelyn. Like, you hear that music, it just picks up the pace. I'm like, God damn, that's just like a great swashbuckling, like, audience cheer moment. And I just like, it kind of makes me sad that there aren't really movies like this anymore that really kind of capture that classic feel. Some people are saying that the new Jungle Cruise movie kind of does some bits like that, but I don't know. I'd have to kind of watch it. But Mummy 99 is just the perfect blockbuster type movie, and it's gotten actually better with age, I feel like.
Yeah, when this movie initially came out, it did receive mixed reviews, but I do think as the years have gone by, there have been a lot of people to come out and say that they like this movie. I've still seen a couple of haters, sadly, over the years, and unfortunately, Mike Matea James Rolfe's friend is a hater of this movie, which just
who cares?
baffles me.
Well, you know what? Not every movie's for everyone. I mean, there's movies that people love that you hate, and movies that are the same for me. Like, for instance, Nick really loves the movie Avatar. I don't like it really, so...
Moving on. And also, this movie was, of course, a pretty big hit. It cost $80 million, and it made $416.4 million in its box office run. So obviously, it made its money back, and then some. And it also managed to beat a rival studio's franchise, not in the box office, but it like beat it before it got there. Because what other sequel came, or what other like big nostalgic movie came out in 1999?
The
Phantom Menace.
But this is a much better movie than The Phantom Menace.
Yes, but also no.
But also yes. Like, there's nothing about Phantom Menace that I can think of as better than this movie.
Okay, I thought you were going to say it was a bad movie, so never mind.
Yeah, but I'm just not huge into I've tried multiple times to get in Phantom Menace. I just don't quite care for it. I like the score, and I like the final lightsaber battle, but really that's about it with that first
movie.
But Mummy 99, I just love everything about it.
So, with all of that being said, let us get into the plot, which is actually fairly straightforward. It's just spaced out. Yeah, it's just well done. In Thebes, Egypt, 1290 BC,
you gotta narrate like Ardath Bay, though. Like Thebes, when you talk about the past portion.
City of the living, crown jewel of Pharaoh Seti I, home of Imhotep, Pharaoh's high priest, keeper of the dead. High Priest Imhotep has an affair with Ankh-Sunamun, Imhotep, of course, being played by Arnold Vozlu, the mistress of Pharaoh Seti I. Imhotep and Ankh-Sunamun kill the pharaoh after he discovers their relationship.
Quick question: how do you say her name? Is it Anak? Because Imhotep's like Anak-Sunamun, and then something
it sounds like Anak because it's said really quickly, but it's Ankh-Sunamun, Anksunamun, Ankh-Sunamun.
Whereas Imhotep sounds like he's saying Anak-Sunamun.
Whereas in the original Mummy movie, it's spelled Ankh-Sunamun. Whatever. Ankh-Sunamun then kills herself, believing that Imhotep is the only one who can resurrect her. Imhotep and his priests steal her corpse and travel to Hamunaptra, city of the dead, ancient burial place for the sons of Egypt. The resurrection ritual is stopped by Seti's bodyguards, the Magi. Imhotep is buried alive with flesh-eating scarab beetles and sealed in a sarcophagus at the feet of the statue of the Egyptian god Anubis, the god of the dead. Basically, Egyptian Hades.
Pretty much.
The Magi are sworn to prevent Imhotep's return. In 1926, 3 years after a attempted invasion of Hamunaptra, Jonathan Carnahan, played by John Hannah, presents his sister Evelyn, played by Rachel Weisz, Evelyn being a librarian and aspiring Egyptologist, with an intricate box and map that leads to Hamunaptra, city of the dead. Jonathan reveals he stole the box from an American adventurer, Rick O'Connell, played by the badass and awesome Brendan Fraser, who discovered
I'm so happy. I'll say this. The world has just, like, it seems like the one thing to unite the internet nowadays is everybody wants to see Brendan Fraser succeed. Like, if you go online, it's just kind of, like, he's kind of become almost like the new Keanu Reeves in a way where, like, everyone's kind of really behind him making a big comeback because people have come to realize, like, they took him for granted when he was here because, like, you know, Brendan Fraser was kind of everywhere in, like, the 90s and early 2000s. He was kind of like that like safe bet, like somebody you look forward to, somebody you knew who was always going to try and bring the entertainment value, like brought fun to movies. But like now that he's been gone and he's been kind of away for a while for a lot of people, like everyone just kind of misses him, and he's doing like great comeback right now. So I'm really happy to see that. So sorry to cut you off, but we got to give props to Brendan Fraser for being fucking awesome.
Well, it doesn't help that Hollywood kind of tore him up a little bit, but his fucking ex-wife just absolutely gutted him and tore him to
ridiculous
pieces.
Alimony payments and all that.
Was it like $500,000 a month or some shit?
So, like a lot of money each year, and it pretty much like just drains like so much of his bank account. And he wasn't getting all the movies. He was hurt from all the injuries he sustained while making movies. He fucking died in the middle of making the movie. Like his heart stopped beating because he blacked out completely, like during the hanging scene, and then he hit the ground, and that restarted like his heart basically. But like he was committed to just putting his body through hell to make a lot of his movies work, and it really shows. Like he's just so fantastic in this movie, and in a lot of movies. Like I always really liked Brendan Fraser. Like when I was younger, like I always like, oh, Brendan Fraser's in this thing. Like I want to watch it because he can be anything on screen. He can be funny. He can be the badass. Like he can be charming. Like he can do the dramatic stuff. Like he could pretty much do anything. He's a very versatile.
He can be George of the Jungle.
And that's a great movie. Like George of the Jungle is really, really funny. And it works because of like a lot of it's like the writing and his delivery and those around him. But like he's great as George. He's extremely likable.
Butt flap.
But don't worry, nobody dies in these movies. They just get really big boo-boos.
So Rick O'Connell, who discovered the city while in the French Foreign Legion, Evelyn and Jonathan find Rick and make a deal with him to lead them to the city of Hamunaptra, city of the dead. Rick guides Evelyn and her party to the city, encountering a band of American treasure hunters led by Rick's cowardly acquaintance, Benny Gabor, despite being played by Kevin J. O'Connor. Despite being warned to leave by Ardeth Bey, played by Oded Fair, leader of the Magi, the two expeditions continue their excavations. And meanwhile, while Evelyn searches for the Book of Amun-Ra, made of pure gold, instead of finding the book, she stumbles upon Imhotep's remains. The team of Americans, meanwhile, discover the Black Book of the Dead. What do you think that thing's made out of? Like copper or maybe obsidian?
Yeah, because the gold book, the Book of Amun-Ra, is it's obviously gold. The Black Book of the Dead, I don't know. That's a tricky thing. So,
accompanied by canopic jars. Canopic jars were used by ancient Egyptians during the mummification process to store and preserve the viscera of their owner for the afterlife. Carrying Unks and Amun's preserved preserved organs. At night, Evelyn reads from the Book of the Dead aloud, accidentally awakening Imhotep. No! You must not read from the book! The expeditions return to Cairo, and Imhotep follows them with the help of Benny, sniveling little bastard, who has agreed to serve him, while uttering cha-cha, musla, nahumo. Imhotep
I just laugh whenever Benny's on screen. Like, he is some of the best comedic relief in a blockbuster I've ever seen.
Sniveling little weasel.
He is the best sniveling little weasel scumbag I've ever seen. He's one of my all-time favorites. Like, just like when I think of a pathetic like loser, but that's like you love to hate. I just think of Benny. Like, Benny is just so good in this movie. He's one of my favorites.
Let's see.
Especially when Rick beats the shit out of him.
Oh, yes. Imhotep regenerates his full strength by killing the members of the American expedition and brings the 10 plagues back to Egypt. Although he only unleashes 6 throughout the course of the film, but whatever. Rick, Evelyn, and Jonathan meet Ardeth at a museum, and Ardeth hypothesizes that Imhotep wants to still resurrect Unks and Amun by sacrificing Evelyn. Evelyn believes that if the Book of the Dead brought Imhotep back to life, the Book of Amun-Ra can kill him again, and deduces the book's whereabouts in Hamunaptra, city of the dead. Imhotep corners the group with an army of slaves with boils and sores, and Evelyn agrees to accompany Imhotep if he spares the rest of the group. Although Imhotep does not honor his word, Rick and the others fight their way to safety. Imhotep, Evelyn, and Benny return to Hamunaptala, city of the dead. Pursued by Rick, Jonathan, and Ardeth, who are able to locate the Book of Amun-Ra. Imhotep prepares to sacrifice Evelyn, but she is rescued after a battle with Imhotep's mummified priests. Evelyn reads the Book of Amun-Ra, making Imhotep mortal, and he is fatally wounded by Rick. Imhotep vows revenge as he is consumed by the souls of the underworld and dies. Benny
is only the beginning.
Death is only the beginning. Benny accidentally sets off a booby trap while looting the city of its riches, which, by the way, that chamber that Rick, Ardeth, and Jonathan come across has got to have at least $100 trillion worth of gold down there.
Oh, there's got to be a lot of money's worth. So, I mean, how else do you think they bought their freaking house in Mummy Returns?
And I made a joke with my brother last night when we watched this. Had that much gold been discovered, I guarantee you the American government would immediately be swooping in and trying to claim that for themselves.
Right. So
Benny is then killed by a swarm of flesh-eating scarabs as Hamunaptala, city of the dead, collapses into the sand. Ardeth bids Rick, Evelyn, and Jonathan goodbye, and the trio rides away on a pair of camels laden with Benny's treasure. Thus ending the film and leading into a fantastic end credits with fantastic Jerry Goldsmith music.
It's such a great score.
Let's not talk about that right now. So how about this plot? Well, it's a loving tribute and homage and passion project to classic Universal monsters. Stephen Sommers knew what he wanted to do. It's obvious he's a big fan of classic Universal stuff. He wanted to make his own Universal monster movie, and goddamn does he succeed.
Mm-hmm.
It pays a lot of tribute to its source material. It is a very good representation of the era that it's drawing inspiration from. It feels classic and old-fashioned, but also fresh, new, and original at the same time. It took the concept and basic idea of the original Mummy, which with its only 73-minute runtime, still felt like a bare-bones movie, but it was still good. It took that movie, stretched it out, flushed it out, gave it some good fluff, and turned it into a bright, sparkling masterpiece. Shiny boy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like it took like a classic, like, kind of like horror series, and like updated to like added like an adventure feel to it, which is a great choice. Makes it more mainstream, makes it more appealing. But this movie's plot, like, it's super easy to follow. Like anyone can follow it. It's not overly complicated.
It kind of does feel like a Diet Indiana Jones movie, but that's not an insult.
In all honesty, as much as I love the Indiana Jones series,
I like this more.
I like this one more. I still love Indiana Jones, but I like this movie more. I think it's funnier. It's got the better villain for sure.
Oh yes.
I mean, Indiana Jones is a great character too, but man, I'm a Rick O'Connell guy. Like I actually watched this before I watched Indiana Jones.
Same.
Actually,
long
like,
before.
Right, and I still love those movies. But like I'm a Rick O'Connell guy. Like Rick O'Connell was basically like the equivalent of my Indiana Jones. Kind of, really, in some ways, this is basically like Uncharted, like before the games came to be. I feel like those games took a lot of inspiration.
Or Far Cry.
Yeah, like they definitely took a lot of inspiration from the Mummy, especially with, you know, Rick O'Connell. Rick O'Connell.
Or Tomb Raider.
Really kind of feel. Yeah, Tomb Raider definitely must have taken. Oh, actually, this is right at Tomb Raider came out first. But Tomb Raider, Lara Croft was not like Rick O'Connell. Like she wasn't really like, she just did kind of for the thrill and the adventure. Rick is a bit of a reluctant hero kind of his first movie, but he steps up when it counts, and that's what makes him really stand out. And that's one of the things I really like about his character. But man, I love the plot. I just love this movie, Nick. Like I could just go on about.
I could gush about this movie for ages myself. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Go, 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 go. Right back at you.
Alrighty.
Fuck you.
So, how many pros you got? I have 10.
You know what? Honestly,
I could have put more, but I just cut it at 10.
You know what? I kept writing stuff down. I got at least, I got over 10, let's just say. So yeah, like some of them, I just like, it's weird because like I'm like the cast of characters, like I put like so many individual ones down that I really liked.
So
like, do I just
pro number 1 for me is the fantastic cast. We're gonna exclude one, but let's just talk about the characters. Starting, of course, because I'm guessing your first pro is the cast.
Well, I wrote down all like the individual cast. But I can kind of combine them all into one. Even the smaller characters still have memorable bits and personality traits that you remember. But yeah, the cast is definitely
starting, of course, with the awesome Brendan Fraser as Rick O'Connell. I love this guy. He is not a typical giant movie action hero. He is badass. He knows how to use guns. He kind of does have a large repertoire of skills, but he has his limits. He has his moments of vulnerability, and he's also he's not necessarily a dumb, meat-headed, oh, I'll just solve any problem with guns. He has moments like that, but unlike a lot of action heroes, he knows when to slow down, make a plan, and actually listen. He's not a dumb.
In the movie, I was gonna say, even in the movie, like when they find out that the Magi has been working with the curator at the museum.
After what I just saw, I'm willing to go on a little faith.
Exactly. You actually see Rick evolve over the course of the movie, and even like kind of like the first time like he sees Art F. Bay like in the desert as he's watching over with him. Like there was something about him that even Art F. Bay kind of respected, like, and you know, Rick kind of just went the like distance. Like he was destined to be this great hero, and of course, Mommy Returns kind of expands upon that more with his, you know, sacred tattoo, which I don't know if you really see it in this movie.
No, you don't.
But you don't. So, but like, I mean, that's just kind of one thing there. But yeah, I'll let you continue, and then I'll speak on behalf.
So. Yeah, he is, but he also isn't a typical movie action hero. But when he is a typical movie action hero, he's so fun to watch. He's quick to pull out the guns. He's a perfect shot. He's got a large repertoire of weapons, blades, guns, his bare hands.
Swords.
I said blades. He's got a great sense of humor. He knows how to kick ass. He has great chemistry with the rest of the cast. And I also do like that not only is he a big badass, he has moments where he's kind of not necessarily like a sweetheart, but he is a bit more like he watches out for people. Like they easily could have played up that he's got like this, oh, we're just rivals and we hate each other just for the sake of hating each other. This is really only in one moment that comes to mind for me. It's when he comes back and says that 3 of their diggers were melted. I got the sense that even though like he's technically is rivals with the other archaeological team, he's still willing to, you know, go out there and you know, give a little bit of help and just get some information, and just he keeps an eye out for everybody, not just his own team.
Benny, like how many times does Benny screw him over?
4 or 5, at least 4 in this movie.
He even tries to save him at the end, but it leads to
obviously it don't work. So he's a special kind of action hero. And also, once again, like last night, I was making a joke with my brother. Going into a potentially dangerous situation, I would be armed to the teeth. And Rick is certainly armed to the teeth in this movie. I love this guy's arsenal. This was the guy that introduced me to dual-wielding pistols. Never thought about doing that before when I was a kid, but when I saw this guy dual-wielding pistols, I thought that was the coolest fucking thing in the world. And of course, his badass Benelli Trent shotgun, is one of my favorite movie shotguns.
I really love the scene in like Mummy Returns where it's just him and Ardeth Bay, and they're just talking different guns. Or like, you want the shotgun?
You want the
I prefer the
shotgun?
Thompson. Like,
No,
I
I
love
prefer the Thompson.
I love moments like that between these two.
Rick is
yeah.
truly almost a one-of-a-kind action hero. You don't really see many like him nowadays.
Exactly. You know what? I was just going to kind of say something. Like, I do want to make a video talking about, like, almost kind of like a video essay talking about, like, why Rick O'Connell is the perfect action hero, because he is so unique. But like, you just really like the guy in each movie. Like, he just has every great quality of an action hero that you love to see.
I feel like the
so
closest thing that we have to someone similar nowadays is Jason Statham, specifically as the Transporter. Don't know if you've ever seen any of those movies.
I haven't seen Transport. I've seen Crank. I've seen a few.
Oh God, no, nothing like Crank. Ugh.
Crank is pretty funny.
Or like Jason Statham's character in The Meg, minus the guns, but he pretty much is typical Jason Statham in The Meg.
Right, but like still Fraser stands out more, I feel like. Statham is awesome, but like I feel like Rick stands out a bit more. Maybe in some ways like another character that can kind of be close to him. Maybe a bit of like Chris Pratt seems to kind of get some of those kind of classic Brendan Fraser vibes, I feel like, in the Jurassic franchise.
The first Jurassic World specifically.
The first one. The second one, he's a little bit more serious. But I can still kind of see Chris Pratt kind of emulating a bit of Brendan Fraser's like Rick O'Connell. Still a little bit different, but like, you know,
shave the mustache.
Kind of similar to that. Yeah, he's got the mustache, and
shave the mustache.
Oh, shave the mustache. Oh, I thought you said he's got the mustache. So,
anything else about Rick?
Like I said, so like my thing with Rick is I think he is kind of the perfect action hero. I guess that's my pro number one too. We'll just kind of say things back and forth. Rick is kind of the perfect action hero. He's got every quality you want to see. He starts out as a bit of a reluctant hero. Like he is a bit of a he can be a bit of a scoundrel too. Like some of the like those Han Solo type vibes.
Then
like
get me the hell out of here.
Right, like why'd you do that? He's like, I don't know. I was like about to die. It seemed like a good idea at the time. He's like, what?
Okay, guys, that's not the thing you should say in that situation.
Right, like Rick can be kind of clueless, and like sometimes like I like some of the little moments too. Like we'll get to the humor, situational humor in a second. That's one of my pros. Like he plays really well off of like every character in the film. He has a great dynamic with Evelyn. Like honestly, it's one of the best like on-screen romances I think I've ever seen in a movie. I think they complement each other extremely well. Because he's more like the action go-getter, but she's definitely the brains of the situation. Mm-hmm. And like only together can they really try to save the day. And I think that's a great way. And you know, Evelyn, she's not going to start out as like this gun-toting, sword-wielding badass. The second
Hang on, we'll talk about the characters one after the other, kind of like with my Aliens review.
Okay, sorry, I just keep talking. So he's very charismatic. He's extremely funny, charming. It's got the scoundrel characteristics. A total badass weaponry. I can't think of anything I dislike about Rick as a character. Even like he still even tries to do the right thing. Given the situation, like I mean, at first, like you said, he's a bit reluctant. When Imhotep shows up, he tries to get the hell out of there. But then when he needs to be there to call to action, he steps up in a very important way. And like really one of my favorite moments in the movie where I just kind of want to cheer, like even like as we're talking about, it's like playing in my head. Like you hear the awesome Jerry Goldsmith's score going on when Imhotep's ready to do the sacrifice thing. Jonathan distracts. Rick grabs the sword and he just jumps in, frees Evelyn. He just sword fighting a bunch of mummies. Like that like really kind of makes me think back to like those old swashbuckling adventures that they used to have back in the day. And like I really love kind of moments like that. He just cut everybody down. And like I said, he's really funny too. Like when like, just the moment where he screams.
What I say?
I love his various screams too. Like especially like when he first shows up. And then when all those like mummy soldiers come at him, like the really fast ones, and then he's just like, ah! He's like, he tries to run. And he's not like invincible too. He definitely is vulnerable. Like Fraser wasn't afraid to like let himself get beat up. That's a trick Jackie Chan learned to make him like more likable to the audience. Like you have like the hero can still win, but they kind of have to go through hell to do so. Whereas somebody like a Schwarzenegger in Commando, which we both absolutely love, but he's like he never really lets himself be true. Like you never really felt like this guy was at a disadvantage. But with Fraser, like when he you definitely feel the stakes are against him, and he's really struggling to kind of get out. like he just is the perfect action hero in my eyes. Like I thought Rick was just the coolest person like in the world when I first saw this movie, and I still think Rick O'Connell is like the perfect action hero. Just throughout the trilogy, and I would love to see Fraser like reprise the role in the fourth movie, which I feel like it's going to happen.
I think they. I don't want to jinx nothing, but I think they might be like the idea is rattling around in Universal's head.
Right, it's going to be like the Halloween 2018 thing, where like they just kind of ignored the other sequel and then just kind of went straight with this new one.
So here's an idea, real quick, to continue the homage stuff. Have the next villain be Karis.
Yeah, could work.
So the next character I want to talk about is Evelyn, played by Rachel Weisz. Now, we're not going to talk about her as a badass fighter. That's next week with The Mummy Returns. We're simply focusing on her.
Sense.
We're simply focusing on her in this film. But still, she's fantastic.
Oh, she's absolutely amazing. Like, and she makes sense given where she is in this movie, at least compared to this. Like the second movie, I know we don't want to talk too much about it, but like it makes sense. It's great to see how she evolves between movies, and it makes sense given like where she is. Like, she doesn't start out like really invincible and everything. She's really intelligent. She's charming. She definitely is very kind of bookish, but she's somebody who kind of yearns for excitement in her life. That's one of her like passions. Like, she yearns for adventure, and she gets swept up in this epic like grand adventure. And like she steps up over the course of the film. We see her really kind of go from like this kind of scared, timid, kind of quiet librarian,
bookworm.
You see her, like she really kind of opens up. She has a great relationship with Rick. Honestly, the romance is like as good as you probably could get. They have really good on-screen chemistry, like really, really good. In fact, some of the best I've ever seen. And they complement each other so well, like where she's definitely got the intelligence, then she knows things that he doesn't know, but like he's a weapons expert, kind of step up and doing the action bits. They complement each other perfectly.
She is the brain to his brawn.
Exactly. It kind of makes me think like Rocky and Adrian a little bit too, but a little bit,
yeah.
A little bit with that regards, but like it makes sense given her knowledge of ancient Egyptian history. And then she even steps up too, like when Rick and them are in danger, like she distracts Imhotep by kissing him. She like toughens up and she calls him out, like she knows, take that, Bembridge scholar. She's charming, she's funny. Like I just love the bit where she's talking, she's like, I am a librarian, and she gets drunk and funny bits too. Yeah, some people may say she's a bit of a damsel, but it makes sense given this movie. She doesn't have the weaponry skills or like the combat skills, but she evolves, and that's what makes it so special. We see where she kind of starts out, and then she gradually becomes really badass as the series progresses, and that's what makes it special, because she's not, like this really tough, like unstoppable force like early on. Like she really kind of evolves even like over the course of this film, and that's what makes her really interesting. Like the characters are definitely flawed in a lot of ways. Like, her naiveness is definitely something that she kind of suffers from.
I wouldn't even say those are flaws per se.
Right. Like maybe like, I mean, they definitely learned their lessons. Like
I would say for like their shortcomings.
Shortcomings. Yeah.
That might sound like this the same thing, but like they have their limits, but they either learn to overcome their shortcomings or they work around their limits.
Right. So yeah,
my thoughts on Evelyn. I agree with a lot of what Shawnee Boy's saying. Yeah, she starts out as this typical, really timid, klutzy bookworm. But she's obviously very intelligent, very ambitious. She does yearn for excitement. And she does seem to be eager to learn and evolve over the course of the film. She is very also pragmatic. She knows how to use her skills to her advantage, like her knowledge of Egyptology, her knowledge of archaeology. Excuse me. There's a lot of ology words. But also, I like one moment when there's a couple moments where it's gonna sound weird. She knows how to use the fact that she's a woman to her advantage. Like 2 examples. 1, there are other places to dig. And 2, when she kisses Imhotep to distract him from killing the 3 guys.
Yeah.
She
So
she shows
Imhotep. I just realized something.
Look at his face.
Imhotep not only has Imhotep kissed like the pharaoh's daughter, but he's also kissed like the pharaoh's mistress. I just realized that. Think about that.
I never thought about that. But yeah, you're right. More on that in the next movie.
The pharaoh's just like, Pharaoh really hates Imhotep at this point. Like, you motherfucker, you got my daughter and you got my mistress. Send her to the Hyundai.
So let's see.
Evelyn's great. Jonathan.
Hold on. I think I don't know if I'm done with Evelyn. And yes, of course, her chemistry with Rick is very, very solid. At first, she seems kind of put off by him because it's that stereotypical all Americans are just beastly and loud and raucous and obnoxious. And well, yeah, there are loud, raucous, and obnoxious Americans in this movie. And Rick sort of starts out that way. But she does seem, from pretty much the first moment that they meet, kind of drawn in by his charm and his personality. And their relationship does slowly develop over the course of the movie. Like, her being like, there are other places to dig. And then she's teaching him about, Egyptology, and he also gives her a gift in order for her to dig and do her stuff better. He saves her from the boat. She saves him from being hung. And they, in the end, they kind of save each other because it's like a good back and forth moment at the very end.
Right.
So speaking of which, something you mentioned, her as a damsel in distress, she is, but she's also a good one because a typical damsel in distress, if they're chained to a table, they spend most of that time just either screaming, whimpering, or just saying, help me, please, help me. She's chained to the table and she's like, she's coaching the guys on, like, giving them instructions on stuff to do. Like, shut up and get me out of here, Jonathan. Open the book, Jonathan. It's the only way to kill him. We need the key, Evie. It's inside his robes. Like, she's coaching the guys on in order for them
she's
to...
still active.
Yeah, she's still active and pragmatic. And as soon as she gets free and they get the key, she's instantly opening up that that book. And I also like she still does have a little bit of humor. 2 moments, and it's when she's reading 2 things. Come on, Evie, faster. Patience is a virtue. Hurry, Evie, hurry. You're not helping.
Like, the humor is so natural. Like,
Hold on.
It doesn't...
We'll talk about the humor. So Evelyn is fantastic. I'm not sure if she gets better in the next movie. Well,
she gets hotter.
Well, I mean, no, I'd say she gets better. Oh, at least a little bit. Well, I think she just.
Right.
I think she did actually have a child in between this movie and the next, because she's like really petite in this movie, whereas in the next one she's got a little bit more meat on her bones.
Right, she's a bit different. Like, I don't know. I really liked her in both of them. The first 2.
Well, we'll talk about 3 next week. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I also say too, like you said about the whole saving thing. Like, she saves Rick's neck. She saves him from the moment
literally
when Rick's loading his gun. Like, I like the little moment too where they're Rick's trying to load his gun, and she just kind of pulls him to the side, and he just kind of looks at her, and he's like, "Oh,
don't ever say my life again."
No. But Rick doesn't like belittle her for saving him or anything like that. He's fully grateful. Like, they work so well as a unit, and that's what I love and respect about it so much. There's no belittling, like, oh, you stupid man saving me or anything like that. He never is just like, you're just a girl. You can't do these things. There's none of that bullshit between them.
Well, there is from the other Egyptologist, but he gets his comeuppance.
What happens to them? they get their comeuppance. As Evelyn says to Benny,
You
everyone
know,
gets their
naughty little
comeuppance at
fellas
some
such as yourself always get the comeuppance. Really?
point. They do.
They do? Oh, yes. Always. Oh, and boy, I like how the movie foreshadows his death because you hear a scarab skitter. And what happens to Benny? He gets eaten by scarabs. Next
Benny
character
does
we're
like
going to talk about is Jonathan. Now, there's ways to do a comedic relief character. Well, I do like Jar Jar Binks. I will admit that how he's portrayed, it is odd. But let's talk about a bad comedic relief character.
The guy in the Mummy 2017.
I can't even remember that, so I can't comment on that. See, what's a movie that has a really bad comedic relief character?
Conan the Destroyer. I try to think of really bad comedic relief character.
Okay, well, here's the type. Here's the type that I'm trying to refer to. They're not funny. They're just annoying.
Right.
Like they're acting like total goofballs or idiots, and they're playing that off as funny, but it's not. It's just annoying.
Right.
And then there's the good kind where they are, I don't know, legitimately funny. And that's Jonathan. Because literally his intro is him playing a prank on his sister. Have you no respect for the dead? Well, of course I do. But sometimes rather like to join them. Well, I wish you would sooner rather than later before you ruin my career the way you ruined yours. Now get out! My dear, sweet baby sister, I'll have you know that at this precise moment, my career is at a high note. High note. Ha! Jonathan, I think, is one of the greatest comedic relief characters ever made because he's
definitely still is a bit of a scoundrel too, kind of like Rick in some ways, like where Rick has some of that, but he takes it to a more of extreme. He's definitely very greedy. And
well, I wouldn't even say that. Well, yeah, he's greedy, but he's not like
cares about like those around
Benny.
him.
Yeah, he's self-aware, and he also he's like how Brendan Fraser describes him in his commentary. He's a ne'er-do-well, but he tries.
Right, he tries, and honestly, my favorite scene with Jonathan in the whole movie is where they have the whole zombies, and he gets kind of caught up, and he's like, "Oh shit!" So he just like,
so yeah, he's
really, really funny.
He's kind of cowardly. He's kind of dumb. He's a
but
bit.
He's still useful too. Like he saves Evie, like by getting the Imhotep's thing to kill, like a Nox in the moon. Like he's still like active in the thing. Like he's definitely like having a bad day, like one thing after another. And like he's in it for himself. Like he's also in it for like his sister. Like he's not like a coward like Benny. Like Benny's him if he didn't have like if he didn't care about others. Like Benny is totally selfish, whereas Jonathan still like cares about those around him. He's still trying to help save the world. Even like when you have like Ardeth Bay and like Rick and that, just kind of like, go ahead, put your backs into it, and they just kind of look at him.
Yeah, that's the other thing about his comedic stuff. It's funny because he's the type of character that just says the wrong thing at the right time. Right. Like, your odds are not so great, O'Connell. I've had worse. Yeah, me too. Shut up. And that's what Rick's look that he gives him says. Like, shut up. Let's see.
The characters really complement each other so well. Like I like the scene like where Rick throws the chair at Penny.
Nice shot.
Like, nice shot. Like that's funny, but it's like it's not very quippy. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It feels really
He's kind of like Captain Obvious.
Right, like he has definitely moments like that. Even this I really like Jonathan. Like he's got some charm to him. He's funny. he definitely is. He can be a bit of a con artist too.
For the record,
see.
if I don't make it out of here, don't put me down for mummification. Likewise, plays golf. Oh, boom! Cracks out freaking Imhotep sarcophagus. Oops. Let's see.
Yeah, I really like Jonathan.
The last thing I want to say about him is that when the going gets tough, he finally does manage to kind of step up a little bit and like use a gun, try to fight back. Like when the priests show up, Jonathan reaches for his pistols and he immediately just starts gunning down the priests. I was okay. That's probably Jonathan's most badass moment in this movie.
Dude got fucking stabbed in the arm. Like Rick got a knife and pulled the scarab right out of him.
Cut into his arm and yanked out the scarab. He's dumb, but he also is fairly intelligent too. Like when his knowledge of the 10 plagues of Egypt and the rivers and waters of Egypt ran red.
Not as much as
no, but he still has enough knowledge to know what's what.
Right.
And when he also learns how to get control of Imhotep's soldier mummies, the first thing he does, kill Ankh-Senamun.
Yep.
And that's really all I want to say about the characters. We'll talk about the rest of the cast real quick. Benny is such a sniveling little weasel. He's the guy that you love to hate, but you also hate to love. He's so funny and so pathetic. You almost feel bad for him because he's such a sniveling little weasel. He's in it purely for himself. But oddly, you also
keeps digging a hole.
Yeah, he keeps fucking himself over. And oddly, you feel bad for him, but you also oddly feel like his connection to Rick actually is genuine. Like the two actually are kind of friends.
You're my only friend. What a surprise! My old friend. Like, I mean, your strength gives me my strength. Like, they feel like
your strength still, like, gives me strength. You just got promoted. So that's all I have to say about him. He's fun to watch. He's funny. He's such a little sniveling weasel. Like he's so fun. He's so fun to watch. You love to hate him. You hate to love him. And his comeuppance is satisfying. And the rest of the cast, yes, they're cannon fodder just to be killed off by Imhotep.
Ardith Bay is awesome though. Like I love
Ardith Bay is cool too. He's like the good badass sidekick. Not much to say about him. He gets better in the next movie.
Right. But like he's really mysterious too. He's kind of that mysterious cool character who shows up that like leaves an impact
for
sure. Great narrating voice too. Like he's got a great voice.
Yeah.
Like when he narrates the story and all that, he narrates it in the next movie. Like I want that guy to just narrate my life. You know, like I've seen him do voice work too. Like he's voiced Dr. Fate. He's voiced Ra's al Ghul and Young Justice. He'd make a great Ra's al Ghul like in live action. I would think so. But he's just like this really badass Magi warrior. And like you said, he really gets better in the second movie too. He's given kind of more to do, and like he's all kind of on his own and out of his. Like I like moments too where like he really kind of seems to form a bond with like Rick and all that. Like he just has this utmost respect. Like he seems like this kind of really spiritual, like holy man that like everyone just kind of looks up to.
But is also still a badass.
But he's also this incredible badass. Like swords, like him and Rick when they're kind of about to show down, like they feel like true equals. Like. Mm-hmm. With each other
in different ways,
and like Ardith, in different ways, yeah, for sure. But like you get the sense of respect, and like even like when they eventually stop the mummy, like he's just there. He's there to help. Like I like how they like form like this bond to kind of work.
The camaraderie is very strong.
Right, and I like too like the moment they're flying the plane too, where Jonathan's screaming, panicking.
Die, bloody loco, right?
And he's smiling and having a good time.
Like, yeah, and then Ardith is over here just having the time of his life.
Yeah, that feels so genuine. It's really sweet. And then like even in the second movie, this was my first bus ride. Like he's so great. Like,
why can't you people ever keep your feet on the ground?
Yeah, like Ardeth Bay is great. Like he's really badass. He's really mysterious. He's cool. He's like a weapons expert. Like he just has this great on-screen presence to him. Like we don't know too much about his story, but I feel like the mystery in some ways makes him more intriguing. Like I don't have to know everything, even though I kind of want to. Like I want to know like his story. I would hope that he finds some way to come back in another Mummy movie where you get to see him bond with the O'Connors. Like you really feel like they have good on-screen chemistry together. Like all the actors play off each other so well and so seamlessly. There's not one like
so yeah,
that feels kind of the rest of the supporting cast too. Like even kind of the little characters like Winston or what's the warden like Gad Hassan or whatever. He's funny too.
Oh, Omid Jalili.
Yeah. I'm a very lonely man. Like he's funny. Like I find the guy really funny.
A very lonely man.
Like he's great. Like he's funny too. Like,
even him. Even like, he knows how to pull out a gun.
Right, Winston. Like I liked Winston. Like even when he died, I felt kind of bad. Like because Winston was like this guy yearning for like the last bit of
sitting
adventure.
Around here rotting of boredom and booze.
Yeah. Like I said, everybody stands out in this movie quite well. Like the supporting characters, even the guy with glasses stands out. Like just kind of the small, like not every, like the professor, a douchey guy, like the guy from
total douchebag.
Anaconda, Jumanji. Yeah, he's a total douchebag. He gets his like even the smaller characters, like they have enough like kind of like little like character traits that make them stand out a bit. And I think that's great. Like everybody stands out, has a good on-screen presence. Benny is of course one of my favorite scumbags of all time. My favorite ongoing thing is just how he's everybody's bitch in the movie. Like it doesn't matter who. Like, I mean, just from the beginning of the movie, like Rick chucks him off the boat. It's one of the funniest scenes. One of the greatest line deliveries of all time is where he's like, "Hey, O'Connell, it looks to me like I've got all the horses."
Hey, Benny, looks to me like you're on the wrong side of the river.
What a fucking little asshole. All right, so let's wrap up on the cast.
Okay, I'll wrap up. The scene where they're racing the
oh shit,
horsewhip thing, and he just gets I could watch Rick beat the shit out of a mountain, and then
the last thing I will say about this isn't the movie per se, but I will say a lot of these Universal remakes, they tend to have really talented and mature casts. Like this movie has a good cast. The 2010 Wolfman has a really talented cast. And there's elements of the 2017 Mummy that has that are good cast choices.
Yeah, but
it's just a shame the movie couldn't have been better. So pro number 2 after almost a half an hour.
We just love the cast.
We need to talk about the last cast member we're going to talk about, and that is Arnold Vozlu as Imhotep.
I love this guy.
Holy shit. This guy has got to be one of the scariest, awe-inspiring, greatest movie villains in all of cinema.
Oh, this guy's he has his own meme page.
I know he does. Is it like Imhotep or some shit?
Yeah, there's several like mummy meme groups, and like it's just his face and like how he has such a great on-screen presence to him, and he does so much without like muttering too much dialogue. Like it's just kind of the facial expressions he makes, and like he really kind of plays into like a lot of some of the effects work that he has to do. Very threatening, very, very threatening villain. Like you feel like Imhotep is completely unstoppable the first time you see this thing. Like you know that everybody is fucked. Like he's got all these different powers. It's the shit-eating grins that he has. He's a badass. He's very intimidating. Like I said, there's just a really great on-screen presence to this guy. He does so much, and you don't forget Imhotep.
Nope.
He has a tragic backstory with it too, like where it's really kind of the mummies about this guy just trying to bring back his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's a common thing in Universal monsters. There's always a level of tragedy to him. Frankenstein, not really so much Dracula. I think he's just in it for himself. But Frankenstein,
Right.
the Wolfman, especially the Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Invisible Man. Actually, yeah, the only one that isn't tragic is Dracula.
Well, Dracula's still kind of looking for brides in that. Like, I guess it depends on the version you're going with.
Nah, but he just wants fresh pussy.
Invisible Man, like, is just kind of one who's not really the tragic kind.
Vincent Price, Invisible Man, specifically.
Claude Rains is a bit different. Like the Claude Rains.
Yeah, he's just a psycho.
Yeah, he's just a psycho. Great performance.
Great performance, yes, but his character is a total psycho. But no, right. Arnold Vozlu does an absolutely phenomenal job as Imhotep. He's very well acted, doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. He's almost like the Terminator. But when he does say something, you know that he means business. He's threatening, scary, intimidating, imposing, and definitely a very, very powerful villain. And I like that it kind of combines elements of a typical killer mummy. Well, sort of atypical. Like, it's a killer mummy, but he doesn't go around strangling you to death. He sucks you dry and then kills you. But also elements of the original Imhotep from 1932. It's a guy who's resurrected after thousands of years and just wants to be reunited with his lost love. And he also de-ages over the course of the film. Done to a lesser extent in Boris Karloff's case, but it's still similar. And also, I've said this already, but Imhotep is scary and very threatening and very intimidating. Even when he's fully regenerated, Arnold Vozlu just still has this aura of, I am all powerful and I will fuck you up.
It's that smirk he does too, though.
Oh, and the smirk, yeah, it's the. It's also like Boris Karloff. Boris Karloff was known for having a shit-eating grin.
Yeah. I really like Arnold Vozlu.
Arnold Vozlu could not have done a better job as Imhotep in this film.
He does the best with what he's given. He plays the part pitch perfectly, like what you need for the movie. So, like,
and
I really
one
like
thing,
Arnold Vozlu.
This most recent viewing, this stuck out to me. He still respects his ancient traditions when he resurrects his priests, like the first two, where he like blows the dust all over him and resurrects them. When they bow to him, he bows back. I don't know why. That just stuck out as like he still like respects his underlings, I'll call them. Which I find that really endearing. But still, he's a phenomenal villain. He's one of the greatest movie monsters of all time, and probably is the greatest universal monster of all time. He is perfect.
He's definitely up there. Like, he's definitely up there, and he got a chance to shine even more in the second one too. So yeah, I really liked Arnold Vozlu.
Yes and no.
Well, the second movie, like, he got a chance to shine more, I should say. Like, we get more of him. So
pro number 3. The mythology made in this film. It takes the basic mythology, which it was fairly explored in the original 1932 film, but that was like the Sunday school version. Here, obviously, this is very deeply rooted in ancient Egyptian mythology. And it's very well told. It's very well recreated. And you actually almost buy this as being actual ancient Egyptian mythology. It recreates ancient Egypt, and it recreates that Egyptian feel so well.
Right.
And also with this movie taking place in the 1920s, which that's where the big Egypt boom occurred. King Tut, I believe, was discovered in either 1926 or 27.
Right. That's also one of my pros too, is like the setting too, because it's really kind of the last time where like there's a lot of mystery left in the world,
Yeah.
Like not everything was like borders and all that stuff. Like it didn't feel like as like today. You get what I'm saying? Like it was a different time period to where you could go on these adventures. Like people like didn't necessarily follow the laws. They kind of went and did their own thing. Like there's still like a sense of discovery. Like there's left worth exploring the world. Like it felt like the map wasn't fully formed at that point.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, like let's go to this ancient place and like we can discover things. Also, the technology kind of limited them to where they can't they don't have like cell phones or like they don't have like military drones and all that. They're limited in their technology. Like they don't have all the stuff that we have today in order to fight off these mummies and stuff. So I think that kind of works to the film's advantage. It's a great period piece.
Oh yeah, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But yeah, just the mythology that's showcased in this movie. It's very Egyptian, very legitimate. It doesn't feel half-assed. It's very creepy. It's very mysterious. And it's just very well told, well written, and well executed, in my opinion. The mythology overall is very, very good. Like, I could almost see a cinematic universe in ancient Egypt, this version of ancient Egyptian mythology made in and of itself. Like, what are the gods actually real in this universe, or is like where did this Hum-Dai curse come from? Who created this curse? Have there been any other people that have been cursed since Imhotep? What happens more in this movie's mythology? And it's really fascinating, and it's really nice to speculate on. And it feels legit too. Obviously, this is fictional, but because it's so deeply rooted in Egyptology, it's just, you can tell the filmmakers did their research to make this feel as legitimate and genuine as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your next pro?
Where are we at here? What kind of what you were saying there too, like the lore building and all that stuff. I think I'll just kind of combine some things right here. So I like the horror elements.
That's my next pro too. Is the scares.
Okay, so the scares, like Imhotep is very frightening. Like when you're young. The scariest thing in this movie to me was always those fucking scarabs, man. Those things would
those
just
fuckers.
like crawl under your skin. You'd see it moving. They eat you alive from the inside. Like when Benny's there at the very end, you just see him all swarming around. Like this man is fucked. Like he has nothing. He is done. Like it's over for him. Like there's no escape. You are going to die. And it's just kind of one of those things. Like those scarabs are honestly like I was more intimidated sometimes by those damn scarabs than Imhotep half the time because Imhotep felt like more like those scarabs like ran on like an instinct to just kill and consume. Whereas Imhotep was just, he was charismatic in a lot of ways. He thought things through. Like, yeah, there's times where he killed on impulse, but he also liked to toy with people. He was intelligent. He was thinking, those scarabs just like, I'm going to eat and kill all of you. That's kind of what I got about that. So I like the horror elements to it. I guess I don't want to drag all my points on.
The horror elements. Now, this movie definitely, I think, could pass as a very good PG-13 horror film. But the horror elements don't clash with everything else. It's a very good mix of romance, comedy, adventure, action, and horror. But the horror stuff is very, very well done. When there's moments that need to be scary, it hits you like a ton of bricks. It's not, well, I mean, it kind of is violent, but it's not gory. It's not gross, which I will say, this isn't a con, or this isn't like something I would, like, I hold against the movie, but I can't deny recently there's a part of me that would have liked to see how this movie would have turned out if it was R-rated. No, it's not an issue per se.
I like the fact that this movie isn't R-rated. Like, I like my R-rated stuff, but I don't need everything to be R-rated. I think this is like the perfect, like it's perfect the way it is as a PG-13 movie. Like, I don't need super graphic violence or anything.
No, I don't necessarily need to either. There's just a lot of things that I like that I just think could be made better if they were R-rated. But I will say, so the horror elements, they're a very strong PG-13. There's some really good jump scares, like Imhotep's first appearance when he has the eyes and tongue. you almost want to scream like Evelyn does in this movie. It's very striking.
Or
It's,
like Rick.
And of course, when Imhotep is in his mummy form, he's very creepy and he's very intimidating. The sounds he makes, the way he walks and moves, and his appearance overall, it's very horrifying, but still it's still PG-13. I also like that when there is violent stuff happening, it actually is more left to your imagination. Like they use a lot of shadow imagery, for example, or you just hear stuff happening. Like when the last dude is killed by Imhotep, you see the look on Imhotep's face and he starts roaring, and then it cuts to Benny and all you hear is the dude screaming and then a loud crunching sound. Like it just kind of makes you cringe and you wonder what the hell is he doing to him. Or when the third dude is killed, all you see is, again, the shadows. He's lifted up in the air, and then you hear just...
he's like...
But then you just instantly see him literally like shrink like a cheap suit.
Yeah, it's like drinking like the last bit of your like pop that you get from like, I don't know, like McDonald's or something. Like, there you go. There's the guy. All right, cool. I'm coming back together.
You do see it, but you also don't see it. Like you see the barest minimum, but it's enough, but then your imagination fills in the blanks. And it doesn't feel cheap. Right. Or like when Amun kills herself, you see the knife go in, but you don't actually see it. Or when she's cut... Yeah, it's effective. Or when she's cut down by the soldiers, again, with the shadows, you do see what happens, but you also don't, and your mind fills in the blanks, but that's all that you need. And it doesn't feel cheap. All of the cutaway kills don't feel cheap at all. It's enough to leave your imagination to fill in the blanks. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel lazy. It's just enough, and then you could just make up whatever you want the rest of the way. And it's fine. It's cool. So yeah, the horror elements in this movie are very well executed. And like I said, this movie actually did scare me at one point. So I actually would say, especially now that I'm a parent, a 4 or 5 year old may not be wanting to see this.
I showed my 5-year-old niece this thing for the first time.
Okay.
She was a little bit scared, but then she just ended up like loving the movie and just like.
But a 6 or 7 year old, by all means, go ahead and show them this.
Right. Like my niece is pretty tough, but she was a bit nervous to watch it, but then she like finally watched it with me, and she was like so excited. And she was like, "My favorite part is where Rick takes Benny and throws him off the boat."
Speaking of which, the next pro is this movie's humor. God damn, is this movie funny? It's not a full-on out... It's not like George in the Jungle where it's like a full out and loud comedy. But there is a lot of humor. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's a little self-aware. It doesn't overpower the rest of the movie's elements. It's there when it needs to be, and it's effective when it needs to be. Look at Jonathan. He's a perfect example. Or Benny, another perfect example. There's a lot of situational humor. There's a lot of clever writing and clever dialogue. And it's
not very quippy either. The humor isn't all just cheap one-liners. Really, I can't really think of too many one-liners in this movie. Like it feels
happens a lot around here.
A lot of great visual gags too. Just every scene is kind of sprinkled through. Like I'll give you a small example. When they're getting ready to go down into like the tombs and that, like Rick, he's just tying the rope, but he's just kind of whipping it over and hitting like the one guy, like little moments like that really stand out. Or like when Jonathan's like talking too much with the other Americans, then Rick just is like, "Oh, hi, Jonathan," just grabs and squeezes his neck, just like.
So we're on evening, Jonathan.
Yeah, like just little bits like that are sprinkled throughout the movie where they make you chuckle, and then when it really needs to be funny, it's really, really funny. It doesn't take itself too seriously when it needs to be. Like it's very self-aware, but it doesn't go down into becoming a parody, like a scary movie or anything like that. It's the perfect blend of throughout all the scenes. Like it mixes. It's like this. Like all these different genres just seamlessly mixed together in like a pitch perfect package. Obviously, the funniest bits for me, whenever it's Rick and Benny, like anytime you get those two on screen, you're going to laugh. Like Benny especially is the funniest
look what I
character
found.
in the movie.
You're in her seat. Now. Yep.
Yeah, like I mean, they have such great like on-screen like chemistry, like him and Benny, like oh my god, like I can't. It's like just Fraser in particular has perfect line delivery for a lot of things. So you came back to the desert
With the new friend, didn't you, Benny?
It's just the way Fraser delivers his lines. Like he knows like how to deliver it like in a really funny way. Benny getting the shit beaten out of him is one of the greatest things. I can watch him get his ass beaten all day.
Oh, and when Benny knees Rick in the balls, like, ugh.
And they just falls out the window. Hey, Benny, you little stinkweed, where have you been? It's
We
funny
are in
watching this.
serious trouble.
All right, what do you think the funniest Benny scene is? Where he gets chucked off the boat or Rick throws the chair?
Yes.
Or I love the whole wall centric bastards.
Nah, the first two. I think it's a tie. So yeah, this
Yeah, like,
movie is very humorous.
Fair bit.
It's not an out and out comedy. It's just it's really good, well timed comedic relief. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It provides levity in the perfect moments. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not too comedic either. It's just a perfect blend. And again,
Exactly.
this movie isn't like split your guts open funny. Don't get me wrong.
I don't know. When Rick throws the chair at Benny, I laugh pretty freaking hard. Or when Benny gets chucked off the boat.
Though you will get some like really, really good snicker moments out of this movie. It's a really, really effective comedy, or like really effective comedic elements.
Yep.
So the next pro that I have is the overall production value of this movie. I know it's 1999, so I think $80 million was still a fairly hefty chunk of change.
Oh yeah, it's a chunk
But
of change.
still,
But it looks great.
This movie looks fantastic. I just think Stephen Sommers. This was one of those times where everyone was firing on all cylinders. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew how to do it. They knew how to do it well, and they worked well with not necessarily limited resources, but this was their amount, and they had to work within it, and they worked well within it. You totally buy it as being 1926. The clothes, the weapons, the vehicles, just the overall atmosphere and look. It looks like the 1920s. And also, especially all of the ancient Egypt stuff, it looks legit. It's
right.
Old, it's
The
ancient.
sets look great.
The sets look great. They're well made. They feel big and bombastic. Again, they're old, but they still look fresh and new and gorgeous to look at.
So yeah, the set's pretty good. Another pro I have is there's a lot of great action in this movie.
That's my next pro. The action
there
scenes
you go.
are absolutely phenomenal. The action scenes don't overstay their welcome either. It's just the right amount.
At the beginning, you get some really creative ones too. Like especially like the sandstorm scene still looks pretty good by today's standards. Yeah, you can tell a lot of it's still CGI.
Not talking about the effects quite yet. We'll get to those.
I'm just saying the action itself. That's a creative action, like the Mummy creating a huge sandstorm with his face in it. That's something you hadn't seen before this movie, because CGI was still like really starting to fully get utilized a lot more. Yeah, they overused it more in some of the sequels, which we'll get to next time. But like, there's a lot of great spectacle in there. Rick is such a badass. I love the bit. Like honestly, one of my favorite bits that I've talked about earlier in this was when he gets the sword and he rescues Evelyn. Then he just seemed like it's like a big old classic swashbuckling moment. It kind of reminds me a bit of Army of Darkness when Ashes.
That's what they were. That's what they were referencing. Well, more so, they were referencing like Clash of the Titans. Or no, not Clash of the Titans. What was that one? Oh, Jason and the Argonauts. They were referencing classic Ray Harryhausen skeleton stuff with a guy taking on skeletons with swords.
Exactly.
That's what they were referring to. And it's well done. So yeah, this movie's action scenes are very well done. They're not overly long, but there's enough action sprinkled throughout the movie to make it thrilling and entertaining. And there's a fair bit of it. There's the opening action scene. There's the boat shootout. There's the camp storm. There's the dust storm, and then the final act is just one big long action scene. But it knows when to take breaks and pace itself.
Right, it knows to add sprinkle humor throughout it. Like I said, Rick has so many great bits, like where he's screaming at the mummy. He does it a few times, the scream, and then he's like, ah! He's like, and then he just
that is actually my favorite scene. I think my favorite action scene is when Rick is fighting the soldier mummies. That's probably the biggest challenge that he faces in this entire movie. And it's very well executed, in my opinion. Like, the sword choreography is well done.
Brendan Fraser's really good at acting with CGI.
Very good. Yes.
I think a lot of people have said he's one of the best when it comes to acting, because like there's just some actors that doesn't feel like they're really interacting with things, but Fraser, you really believe he's there in the scene with something,
slicing these mummies in half.
Yeah, when he cuts them in half and you just kind of like just playing with it, like I feel like he really is doing that. Like some instances you don't. Okay, that reminds me too of going back to the humor, like the scene where he has to, like, the mummy's about to squish him, and then you have the arm crawling, he grabs the arm and
Splash.
cuts him, like, oh shit.
Splat.
Yeah, like that's fun. That's entertaining. Like it's a good time.
Yep.
So yeah, Fraser is really good at like bits like that too. Like the action, the action and humor just blends so seamlessly together. Like I just like the bits where he's like, oh, going up the rope, and then just those kind of classic elements to it, like trying to hop along things, and things are kind of chasing after you. Like the big escape from Hamunaptra is the city just happens to have this one switch here, like in case somebody actually tripped and fell. Like that would really suck.
Yeah, the action scenes are fantastic. Great. Next pro.
Shot too.
Oh yeah, the cinematography is very well done too. So the next pro that I have is this movie is very much so a loving homage to classic Universal. It's very new. It still manages to be its own thing, but you can clearly tell that Stephen Sommers is a classic Universal fan.
Look at his filmography. He did this, My Returns, Van Helsing, which I feel like Van Helsing should have been the Universal like crossover Dark Universe thing. Cross it over with the Mummy, bring in Rick O'Connell. How much cooler would that? Like, you would have gotten more asses into the seats, I feel like, if he brought in Rick O'Connell for that one.
Or another movie where you team up Hugh Jackman and Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, remake Creature from the Black Lagoon, bring in Fraser and like Van Helsing or like whatever Universal monster they haven't destroyed yet. They destroyed Dracula, they destroyed the Mummy, they destroyed Wolfman, and then Frankenstein's monster. So really, after that, you have like Invisible Man, and then you have the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't think of any of them. Phantom of the Opera. They took out Mr. Hyde. So pretty much those are the only ones left you could do. But yeah, so yeah, it's definitely a loving tribute to all that. I also like the build up too in the movie. I thought it was built up quite well. It really took its time to set things up. And it wasn't just all spectacle. Like there's definite setup for it too, which reminds me a bit. Another pro I'd say is the setting too. I kind of already talked about this earlier with you, but the setting was critical in what made this movie work too. You don't have all the modern gadgets. You're kind of limited for a lot of things. It definitely has a way to kind of isolate you, make things feel kind of more. You're in a more dire situation because you don't have all the tools at your disposal. You have to kind of think your way through things, and you really have to rely on some of the ancient Egyptian artifacts and all that to kind of take the mummy down. Like there was that sense of adventure that you just can't really have in today's day and age, because everything just seems like, okay, I could just fly there, I could send a text. Like here, it's like, no, you actually had to you went on a boat, you feel like you had to go on this big epic journey, and like I feel like the setting really kind of helped that for this one. So that's another pro I
Pro number 9 for me is the special effects. 99.9% of the time are fantastic. Not talking about the production value, but still, the production value is great. The effects are a very good mix of practical and digital. Now, still, in 1999, digital effects were in their infancy, so there is a lot of practical stuff here. But the digital stuff is not used sparingly, per se, but it just is, it's used well. And again, not sparingly and not even minimally. I just don't have the quite right word to describe it, but the digital effects are used well when they're needed, like the half decomposed face of Imhotep, or Imhotep when he's in his full mummy form. It looks pretty damn good, and all the practical effects look really good too. Like a lot of the soldier mummies, those were guys in suits. All of the priests.
Yeah, like I like those too. Like there's times where I feel like they could have just kept them practical and there was no need to kind of CGI stuff. Like some bits like running up against the walls and that, yeah, I can kind of get, but like
and also them literally being bifurcated in half. That obviously got to use CGI for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the priests, they're all guys in suits. They had to have been skinny as fuck.
Right.
Yeah, all the practical effects look really, really solid. There's really no blood. There's very little blood. Like when Imhotep gets impaled, there's like some blood on his hand. And also when you can see there's like some bloody stains on Rick's shirt, on his shoulder, his chest, and his back from when he was fighting the priests. Yeah, all these special effects just look very, very solid. It's a good mix of practical and digital, and for the most part, they hold up very, very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So my next pro, like I kind of two left. I have fun escapism and the score as well. So.
I have one more. Just go through escapism real quick.
Okay, so I think you have the score as your last pro, right?
Just keep talking.
Okay. So my next pro, kind of like I know you're gonna probably have the score, so I'm gonna just hold off on that one. So my next pro is fun escapism, and this is the most important thing about this movie to me. This movie, it kind of came at a time, like, I mean, in the 1990s where you didn't really, like, there was, like, the 90s were kind of, like, had a lot of kind of shitty, like, movies. There wasn't really fun summer blockbusters for a lot of years. There's kind of, like, this dead period in the 90s where, like, just everything just seemed to kind of suck, a lot of people would say. And the 1999 Mummy kind of came out at a time when the world kind of needed, like, a fun, out-of-nowhere summer blockbuster. Everything, it had every bit of element you could want.
Oh, there was Terminator 2.
Well, that was 1992, so there was like a long gap between like movies like that. Like there was like a fun adventure movie. It'd been a really long time. I feel like the last real big fun adventure movie I think was probably like Last Crusade, that I can think of, like a 10-year gap in the like in the 1990s and that. Like this movie came at a time when people needed, because like what do they have? Phantom Menace disappointed a lot of people. I know some people like it, which I think you really like Phantom Menace, but it did disappoint a lot of people, and so a lot of people were kind of looking to like find a movie that just really kind of like made the audience just feel good when they went to go see a movie. Like they had a really good time. It's got everything kind of working for it. Like you have the classic villain, you have the classic swashbuckling hero, but kind of done in a bit of a unique way. You had the romance in there. You had the horror elements. You had everything kind of working perfectly for this movie to just have a really good time. And there's a reason that people are still talking about this movie to this day. I mean, there's a number of reasons people love this movie. But I think the fun escapism, like, because people like nowadays are just like getting really nostalgic for it. They yearn for that sense of adventure that like only a movie like The Mummy has, that a lot of movies today just don't really do, because we're just kind of just crowded in this time space of just nothing but like superhero movies. And I love going to see them, but like you don't really feel the fun escapism anymore, like the adventure, like the classic adventure like you get with The Mummy. So fun escapism is something I think that's just really important today, because that's why we go to the movies, right? Fun escapism.
Yep. Unfortunately, unlike a lot of movies nowadays where they just want to shove social commentary down your throat, and make, to
The
quote
Mummy
Jackie
doesn't
Boy,
care.
life boring and a chore.
Right, and I'm just tired of that. I want to get away from that when I go see a movie. Like, I understand, like, some movies having it, but, like, I don't need it in, like, everything. I don't need to be reminded constantly. Like, let me have my entertainment. So that's why I think people are kind of going back to movies like The Mummy. Like, you had, like, a really good cast. You had just kind of everything about it that just was just fun. You know what I mean? Like, this brought fun back to movies, I feel like. It's just the perfect summer blockbuster that still holds up extremely well. And in fact, is getting even better today because of what we're kind of subjected to with a lot of movies today. We're like, let me go back and rewatch that 1999 Brendan Fraser Mummy movie again. Like, wow, this really holds up. And in fact, because of its time period setting, it's timeless too. So, like, I just want to keep, every time I watch this thing, I want to kind of go back and revisit it again. So, yes, Escape was one of the other cons. And then my last
the
pro was,
final pro is the music score by Jerry motherfucking Goldsmith. Fuck yes. This has got to be one of my top 10 favorite American film soundtracks of all time. Jerry Goldsmith, I definitely think he's done great movies, but I still say he's a very underappreciated composer. Motherfucker only won one Oscar throughout his entire career. How?
What was that?
And it was The Omen.
I can't remember. Yeah, like his score is fantastic in this movie. Like, you remember, I know the music. Like, again, that swashbuckling one, Rick Comes to Save. I remember the Mummy scene was like dun 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 dun. Like, that's such a memorable theme. Like, that's like, and like the classic Egypt stuff, the sense of adventure, the romance bits to it. Like, it's such a great classical score. I was listening to it today. Like, I just was in a Mummy mood. Like, the more we talk about it, the more I want to go back and listen to that score. I think it's really, really good. It's one of the best I've heard. Definitely one of my favorite scores. I just think the music is great. So, I mean, that's all I can really say about it. It's just a really good score.
Yeah. All of the music, and there's not a bad piece of music in this film. It's
right, and it's
big,
all orchestral. There's no like pop songs or anything. Too,
it's big, orchestral. Fuck, I lost track. God damn it. It's big, bombastic, orchestral, like you said, spooky, romantic, thrilling, entertaining. This is just one of those perfect music scores. It almost feels like they were Mickey Mousing the film. Like they were just scoring the movie as they were watching it, and whatever came to mind, that's what they did. All of the music in this movie is just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I love this movie score. It's one of my favorite music scores of all time. I think this might also be my favorite Jerry Goldsmith score. Small Soldiers is pretty fucking awesome too, which I kind of feel like there's some keys from Small Soldiers that Goldsmith reused for this movie, but not in the way of being cheap, just like instruments that he was familiar with. But yeah, this movie's score is absolutely phenomenal. So with all these really good things to say about this movie, do we have any cons?
Yeah, I can kind of like, some of these are kind of more like nitpicks.
No. Not a damn thing. But we do have 2 nitpicks to say. And these aren't even real nitpicks. They're just questions.
Yeah, so, well, one of my nitpicks, some of the CGI is...
one is a question, and one is just what's the word? It's not even really a problem. It's, I'll say it's a disclaimer, for lack of a better term. Yes, there are a couple moments when the digital effects, they're not bad, but they're dated.
Yeah, mostly, at least it's not Mummy Returns bad.
Oh, God, we'll talk about that. Mostly it has to do, one, in the final stage of when Imhotep is like half decomposed. There's a lot of moments when like Imhotep is moving and the digital patches, you can kind of see them move around on his face and you can tell it's a digital effect. I actually think the worst digital effect is when fully regenerated Imhotep stretches his mouth down.
Oh.
It looks a little cartoony and a little too digital.
There's some cartoony bits with Imhotep in this movie. Let's not care. Like when Arnold Vozlu is just doing the like, I mean, on set it must look ridiculous, but he's so committed to it that you don't really like. I think there's some goofy bits there. Like, how do you like not? How can you not laugh at some bits when you're on set and somebody's going like? I mean, that's his commitment, man, to it. Like when I don't really like. I mean, like when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, there's just some actor just going like. I mean, that's like just see like without context, you're probably gonna laugh, but yeah, some of the effects don't quite hold up so well. Really, some of my other nitpicks are just a few like kind of plot issues I kind of have with it. Like for instance, the curse. Why would you curse this guy who comes back and has all these fucking powers?
Yeah,
of God?
that's my second nitpick.
Why don't they carry around cats? Because the first time he uses a cat, Imhotep runs away, and then he brings his Brendan Fraser's like, "Oh, look, kitty!" and then he goes, like, why don't the guys holding the sacred jars have a cat with them at all times? You would think, right?
A little ridiculous, but
it would look ridiculous. But you know what? Imhotep is terrified of cats. He flees the instant he sees cats. So just carry a cat around with you until you can find a way to stop him. Like that's always bugged me ever since I was younger. I'm like, why the fuck don't they carry around a cat at all times? Like it's clear like maybe then that's how Imhotep could like use his pawns to kind of get to them. Since he's terrified of cats. You get what I'm saying? Like, why doesn't anybody use fucking cats? When they show that it works, they just kind of forget about it as the movie continues, especially for the last guy. Like, oh shit, Imhotep needs this guy to fully regenerate and get his powers back. Let's keep him safe. Let's surround him by pussy. Cats. Sorry. Sorry, I had to throw that joke in there. So yeah, and again, that and the whole curse thing, like, okay, the Humdai is like the worst of the curses that they've never used before. Like, okay, who wrote the curse? Was somebody just like, okay, and then he gets magic powers. Can we do the curse where he just suffers endlessly, but like doesn't get endless curses? Because like, why would you want to like? Because he can just get his revenge and all this. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, why do I have a curse where he's just eternal?
Hang on, guys.
Gets doomed.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, so that's kind of my only real issues with it. Like, why do they forget about? Why don't they have cats with them at all times? And why give this guy a curse where he gets magic powers? Like,
yeah, that's my second. That's my second nitpick. It's not even necessarily a problem. It doesn't derail the movie, but it is just a big question. Why condemn somebody, have them executed and buried alive and cursed with a curse that has the potential to turn him into a raging, genocidal god, pretty much?
Pretty much.
Why? Seems kind of counterproductive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. So, well, but I think
it's just a big question. But that's all I have to say about this movie. Final thoughts?
The Mummy 1999 is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's only going to continue to I'm only going to continue to enjoy it more as as years go on. In fact, I almost want to make some more videos on it because I think I did some after the movies a few years ago when the Tom Cruise one was coming out. But I want to do something else to talk about it some more. Maybe even like a movie commentary night or something would be kind of fun to do because I really love this movie. Like I've loved it since I was young. I just keep wanting to go back and revisiting it. Really, kind of the first two, go back and revisiting. I'm fine with the third one, but like it's not up to the level of the first two. But like it's just one of those movies that it's just fun escapism. It has everything you could want in a blockbuster movie, and there's a reason people are still talking about it to this day. Like, I mean, people are thinking that a fourth Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser's on the way because even Universal kind of posted something about like acknowledging like Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I think I think you're gonna see it, but it'll take because like Brendan Fraser's got like 2 like important movies coming up. He's also on Doom Patrol.
Yeah, he's still doing Doom Patrol,
which I can't wait for season 3. It should be really fun. So he's got this Darren Aronofsky movie, and Darren Aronofsky like is really good at like getting Best Actor awards and nominations with his movies, like he did with Black Swan, and then Mickey Rourke and the Wrestler got like kind of his career comeback after that. Fraser is the lead in his next movie, and Fraser's crushing it in a lot of really kind of dramatic roles right now. So I think that's really good for his cause. And he's also going to be in a Scorsese movie. So like now he's it's getting to the point where people are just like really kind of wanting to see him make a comeback. Like obviously you got like the memes on the internet, but like even when I kind of go on social media, like Twitter and all that, like the one thing that seems to unite people is wanting to see Brendan Fraser succeed. And people just love The Mummy 1999. Even like my return, you don't really see people really talk too much about Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, the Tom Cruise one, other than to kind of shit on him. But people have really fond memories. Like nostalgia is really kind of kicking in for The Mummy right about now. And people are just kind of yearning for that time of like, I want a fun movie like The Mummy again. Like I just don't seem to get that anymore. So I like there's a reason that just this movie just kind of holds a place in my heart, and I think there's a reason it's connected with a lot of people because it's really really good. And it's just entertaining, man. Like it's pure fun escapism at its best. I love everything about it. Even if I have some nitpicks here and there, it's like one of those things where like I can nitpick and have poke fun in a movie I love. Like it's genuine. Yep. Like it's just a special movie for me. So, and I know it is for you. And we're talking about this movie right now. I mean, a lot of movies that came out like years ago, nobody talks about anymore. But The Mummy, people talk about to this day. It's very popular. Especially even now, the nostalgia's kicked in and more people are revisiting it and discovering it every single day. One of my favorite things was showing my niece the Mummy trilogy for the first time, this past year. Like just seeing like how somebody who was kind of my age when I first saw it reacting to it, like how she got really excited and was like quoting the movie and like talking about like Rick beating up Benny. Like, I mean, like, they put a smile on my face. Like, I felt like a bonding, a connection, like, right there. I'm like, oh, my God, you're just like me when I was younger. I thought that was, like, it was just the most precious thing. So I have such fond memories, and it's nice to kind of pass those memories on to the next generation. So it's just a special movie for me, and I think for a lot of people, too. And hopefully we get a 4th one with Fraser coming back. Because I want to see the ultimate comeback for Fraser. Keanu Reeves did it, and he's done it magnificently. And I want to see something like that for Brendan Fraser, because I feel like he kind of got screwed over in life and a lot of things.
His fucking ex-wife. Fuck you, bitch.
Yeah, he had that, but like he's still too humble to kind of say anything about that. And obviously, like he had that incident with the Hollywood Foreign Press, which he's talked about, where like somebody did something like that. Yeah, but it's just one of those things. So I hope to see him make a comeback more and more. He's doing that right now. He's killing it on TV. But like The Mummy, I really want to kind of get that old classic feeling of when I saw The Mummy for the first time. So, yep.
My final thoughts, this is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. There's not a damn thing wrong with this movie. There's a couple things that have aged, but they age gracefully. So just keep that in mind. I love this movie to death. It's one of my favorite films of all time. And what the hell else am I going to be rating this movie other than a perfect,
10 out of 10.
No pun intended, solid gold, 10 out of 10. This is a masterpiece, one of my favorite movies. It's endlessly rewatchable and endlessly entertaining, and it's a very, very special film for myself. Go check out Shawnee Boy's channel. I'm sure he's got some stuff coming up very soon.
Yeah, I gotta go back to editing some stuff. So.
Look forward to next week where Shawnee Boy and I will tackle the last 2 movies in this trilogy, but starting, of course, with The Mummy Returns. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. And as always, if you come across an ancient civilization and an ancient tomb with a big obsidian black book, run. And I will see you guys.
And wait, one last thing, Nick. And as always, looks to me, just make sure on the right side of the river. Damn it, I fucked it up.
And I'll see you guys in the next video.